the officer's initiating physical contact.
They lose the control.
He's not even hearing the command, right?
There's a lot of missing data.
Today on episode 3 of the Lens of Bodycam Bus, we're going to talk about Tyron McAlpin, the incident that he had with the police. Greg, are you ready to watch this footage?
I'm ready to watch the footage.
Okay, let's get to it.
Hey buddy, stop where you're at. Have a seat. Tase him, tase him, tase him. Get your hands behind your back. Get your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back, asshole. Get your hands behind your back. Hold him. Move, move. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. All 3 X-ray taser deploy more units. Hand behind your back. Hand behind your back. One more. Hand behind your back. More. Hand behind your back. Hand behind your back. Hand behind your back. Now. Hand behind your back. Okay. O3 X-ray getting him in the cuffs now. We'll fire. I think I broke my hand. Did he bite you? Yeah. Taser deployed. And
do this over an assault.
That's about it. Stand by.
That's pretty intense. I think before we analyze this video or you give us your feedback, let's pull up the footage from the store cameras.
One officer reported that McAlpin took a fighting stance, tried to run, threw punches, and failed to comply to commands when the officer approached him.
All right. So, Greg, what are your initial thoughts?
Violence, whether it's a cop, acting out in violence or, a suspect, it's always very ugly. Violence is unfortunately a part of police work oftentimes. This looks very, very bad. There's a lot, the problem I have with these type of videos is there's a lot of missing data. I want to hear the radio call. I know one of the videos that I watched, it was one of the news agencies said that one of the reporting parties said that they were fighting over a bike and then it escalated into violence, and then this gentleman was pointed out as having stole his phone. We got to put ourselves in the police officers' minds, and as they're rolling up with this information in their head, because that would be a robbery. The first words out of the mouth of the officer was, wait there, or something to that effect, as he's pulling up in his vehicle. And Tyron quickly turned away from him, which could have triggered a pursuit response. Again, I'm not trying to, Greg was a cop, trying to take sides here. I'm just trying to, I want to be balanced because it does look very, very ugly what these officers are doing. The body cam kind of shows a fist. What looks like to me, the body cam footage is horrible because it's all so close, but it almost looks like there was a punch being thrown by Tyron. I don't know. If there wasn't, then punching him would have been wrong. Using physical force to restrain him would have been appropriate, but punching him would have been, that wouldn't have been justified. Yeah, it just sort of degraded very quickly, though. This reminded me of, in the police, in training, we have a lot of role playing and scenarios. And I remember it was during a firearms training, and it was all simulated. But we were watching, it was a simulator. And back in the day, and I'm talking like when I was in the academy, this was in 1989, the simulators were more or less, they were playing like a movie, and then you were reacting to the movie with a simulated gun. And one of the scenarios was a man, and he was making an overt movement towards his back very quickly. And the officer in the scenario you were responding to is some type of like violent call. And then he pulls out very quickly what was like an identification, identifying him as a deaf man. But the way he reached and everything, it looked like he was reaching for a gun. And back then, things have changed since then, but officers could justify deadly force if they were making an overt movement that's consistent with drawing a gun. Now you have to actually see the gun before you can use your gun against them. But back then, you could have shot the person for making that type of overt movement. And this reminds me so much of that. It's like a no-win situation at all. It's just a no-win. I know these videos, they're not, I wish there was just filling in. There's a lot of blank space in this video as far as data, the data that's in those officers' brains right now. I think I would have handled the arrest part a little different. I wouldn't have tased him. Once they were down on the ground, he was laying on his arm. The other officer could have pried that guy's arm out from underneath him rather than tasing him. I think the tasing him was very ineffective.
Well, it seemed like there was like a little bit of like conflicting information for the victim, where if he's lying on his arm and a cop's telling him, put your arms behind your back, and he can't put his arms behind his back. And not to mention, now we discovered that he's deaf. So they're giving him a command. He's not even hearing the command, right?
Well, also tasing somebody locks up your muscles. So that was having the opposite effect of what they were trying to achieve. So I don't know why the heck they used the taser. And also, the way we would tase in close proximity, it would be what's called a drive stun, where you actually pull the cartridge out where the projectiles are in, and so there's no darts are going to be coming out, and it's just the terminals inside the taser, and you'd press that up against the person and pull the trigger. So it's like an old school stun gun, how you have to touch somebody with it, rather than a taser, which is firing the two darts with wires connected. Yeah, but again, when you're tasing somebody like that, their muscles, they just tighten up and they're not going to be able to release that arm, So I think that second officer would have served a better role had he just helped pry that arm from underneath Tyrone and then hooked the guy up. Instead, you're right, once they were down on the ground, there was a lot of stuff going on that didn't need to happen. And I think it was a lot of, again, I think the taser caused a lot of the problems. They didn't know he was deaf. I mean, that's just like, again, it's one of those nightmare scenarios. You're responding to a call with the information that's given you by the reporting party and maybe a witness or the maybe victim. And this is what you have in your head when you see this man that has been pointed out as the suspect. And I understand that later that the information came out that he wasn't, but they don't know that at the time, and you have to deal with the information you have at the time. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. This is one of those times.
Doing some research here, the team, and we found some footage from police activity.
You didn't talk to no employee?
It's 2014, Tom.
Okay.
I was looking for the guys that wanted to assault me right here.
Where did they go?
The first one went that way. And
Okay. Hey, you guys just want this guy to trespass? Okay.
You're saying that's the guy that assaulted
right there, with the backwards hat on. Yep.
Okay. What's he gonna say if we go talk to him?
He was, you can watch the video. He was standing right outside of the door. He pushed me inside the store, and he was telling me, get out, get out. You know, I'm saying, I'm not going out there. There's other people trying to...
Alleging he assaulted you, do you want him to go to jail?
Yes, he said, put his hands on me. I felt violent, and he was pushing me outside the door, and he was standing outside the door opening and saying,
That dude.
Why didn't you wait here for him?
The black guy?
Yeah. Hey, buddy, stop where you're at. Have a seat. Tase him, tase him, tase him. Get your hands behind your back. Get your hands behind your back. Get your hands behind your back, asshole. Get your hands behind your back. Hold them. Move, move. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. All through X-ray taser, deploy more units. Hand behind your back. Hand behind your back. One more. Hand behind your back.
What we're seeing is what you just said before. You hear the taser being used, and he's telling him to put his hand behind his back. And from what I understand, you're saying your muscles are seizing up. There's probably no way for him to do that.
Yeah, everything kind of locks up. That's why, when you tase somebody, if they're standing, they're going to drop because all their muscles just lock up. They kind of lose, they lose the control over their muscles. So I think that was a poor decision on the officer's behalf, tasing him. There was other options.
And is that normal? You see the officer on the left-hand side, he's striking him on his back?
Yeah, I mean, if you have somebody who's actively resisting, punching isn't appropriate. It's very ugly, but it's, your hands are a force option that's, you're allowed to use your hands on someone who's actively resisting. I think one of these officers probably suffered a boxer's fracture. He probably broke a couple metacarpal bones here from punching the guy in the head. You see the footage later with the hands in front of the body cam, and he's massaging the knuckles here. I think he broke his hand, and I think he actually says, "I think I broke my hand." Actually,
I don't think he punched him in the head. I think he was punching him in the back.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. If you have somebody who's even laying on the arm, you'll see that. But with two officers there, I think that was a poor use of the second officer. Again, he could have even taken out his baton and not used it as an impact weapon, but you can kind of use it as a pry tool, get it between the crook of the crook of the arm here and pried it out from underneath.
So let's go frame by frame so we could see if we could identify and see who threw the first punch. Look. Look at that. You see his hands?
Yeah, he's reaching for him.
Yeah.
See, he's got a hold of him now. He's grabbing him.
Yeah, you see? So it looks like, based on this footage, it looks like the officer's initiating physical contact.
He's grabbing him. He's taking him into custody, which is perfectly fine, based on the information they have.
But don't you think it would have been better for them to, okay, they don't know he's deaf, but to try and talk to him more,
He already told, like he did when he first pulled up. He told the guy, wait there for me, and the guy turned away from him.
And do you think that's a little bit of excessive force? Like, is it like you have to obey on command, like a dog?
Well, again, like I said before, I know I'm going to get attacked for this. Oh, I was a cop, and yes, I was. And because of that, I'm saying we have to put ourselves in his shoes with the information at the time that he has. They did. The attorney in one of the videos said they never contacted and did any type of an investigation at the Circle K before contacting him, which this video proves that they actually did. They were speaking with the guy who was the victim, and based on the information he provided him, because there was force used in trying to steal a telephone, that's a felony. It's using force to steal something from somebody is a strong arm robbery. So this is what's in that cop's brain. That guy also pointed him out. That's him. They confirmed that guy there. Yes, him. So they're in their minds now. They're contacting a robbery suspect. Okay, and right when he pulled up, he said, "Hey, bud, wait there." And Tyrone quickly turned away, which any reasonable person would conclude that he's now fleeing. So he gets out to physically take him into custody. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, but when you watch the store footage, it looks like, I mean, we could pull it up. It looks like the cops pull in with the car, and it seems like he's still kind of walking that direction towards the cop. And it's only when the cop is running towards him, you see him turn. You know?
No, but you don't. The problem with that is you don't hear the audio. The police officer telling him to wait there. You see him quickly turn away before. My personal opinion is when he turned away quickly, it was when he gave him basically told him, wait there, gave him that command, and he didn't. Again, we don't know. They didn't know he was deaf.
Look, as someone who's not a police, it just seems like it was a little excessive. You know, like I'm trying to understand. It looks like the cop comes in with his car. He's still going in, but his Tyrone's body movement only turns once the cop is speeding up towards him by foot.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. If you're a police officer and you're attempting to contact somebody who you believe, and it's reasonable for you to believe this based on what the person that called is telling you, that he is basically, used violence and tried to steal a phone, which again is a robbery. So it's reasonable to assume that this guy is the robber. And, when you try to contact him and tell him, hey, wait there, he's not complying with you. Instead, he's turning away. Now you can use force that's reasonable to take him into custody. The first thing he did was grab Tyrone. He didn't punch him right off the bat. He grabbed him. That body cam footage showed that clearly. So again, then it escalated from there. But like I said, this is just one of those horrible kind of no-win situations. I mean, there's so many variables involved that, no one knew that he was deaf, that he couldn't hear. So he didn't hear and we don't know what's in Tyrone's mind either. Obviously he was afraid and that's why he was turning away and trying to get away, but they didn't know that. So again, it's just a no-win situation, no-win. And I don't think that the assault charges are going to stick.
Well, yeah. So from what I understand, he's not being charged, and I'm talking about Tyrone. He's not being charged for the crime he was accused. Now it's everything related to resisting arrest. Correct?
Yeah. And I don't think that's going to, well, I mean, I'd be shocked if that goes to trial, if they actually push that. But, because he didn't know why the cops were doing all this to him. Obviously, if he didn't get in a fight with that guy and didn't try to steal the phone, then he didn't know why this was happening.
So now I'm curious. You were talking about before the taser that when you get tased, you seize up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are cops normally trained where they say, hey, if you're going to tase someone, you're actually going to make it more difficult to cuff them at the same time? Or is that not part of...
Well, you can tase somebody who's handcuffed because, but you want to have another officer controlling those arms, the limbs. But expecting him to comply while the taser's clicking off, that's not going to happen. Again, it's just a few seconds of voltage going into the body. So it's going to seize up while those clicks are going off. But after the clicks, then the muscles will relax again, and then the person being tased will have control and be able to comply. But I just think under these circumstances, instead of tasing him, trying to get him to comply to release his arm, they should have just physically moved that arm from underneath him.
But the question I have is are you speaking from experience, or are police officers trained where they say, hey, listen, here are some scenarios. While you're tasing someone, the person you're tasing will lose control of their muscles and they'll have trouble to comply with what you're asking. That's more where I'm trying to understand. Like, are you speaking from experience, or is this something that every cop should know, that while you're tasing someone, you're going to have trouble having the person comply with your orders?
Yeah, the officers know that while the taser is clicking off, the person's not going to be able to, again, move that arm from underneath. They knew that, or they should know that. But again, I just think that the other officer should have been controlling that arm rather than continuously giving these orders. And then when he's not complying, you tase him again. They had him contained pretty well. The officer was on top of him. One hand was behind his back with a handcuff already on it. The other officer, I just think his role would have been better served to drop down with this first officer and taking control of that arm. It would have ended everything a lot quicker than it did end.
I'm also wondering if, like, instead of using the taser, right, if he would have, like, just put one of his knees on the back of his tricep, controlling one arm, putting his hands on the back, and the other officer could have pried out the other hand at the same time. Like, I've been in situations in grappling where if I put someone on his belly and I put my knee over his tricep, and even if I might, it's almost like I'm knee boarding his body, I have my other knee on his back, it's very hard for them to get up, And I can imagine having two grown men on top of someone, you could have more control doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously would have been another option, again, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. What I'm saying is the other officer, I think, would have been more useful to with his hands rather than the taser.
All right, well, we'll see how this plays out. Thanks for your insight. I mean, I feel bad for the guy to get.
Yeah, I know, it's hard not to. I mean, that's one of the barriers that those officers are going to be up against, is even it's the sympathy vote goes to the guy who can't hear. Like I said, this is one of those nightmare scenarios in training that they throw at you, that you're trying to give verbal commands, which is your first, on the force continuum, verbal commands is the very lowest level, and he's not complying. We don't know that he can't hear, I think I don't know. I would have liked to seen, it would have been interesting to see if the officer would have just got out of the vehicle and walked up to the suspect. I hate talking to people through my car window. I don't think it's very safe to do that either, to pull up next to somebody and say, hey, sit over there. I think I would have pulled off, got out of my car and approached him on foot and tried to garner, give him some commands. Hey, come over here, let's talk. We need to talk about this. But again, these guys, I believe they thought they were approaching a robber. That's just kind of what I think was in their head. We won't know until more information comes out. I mean, we have the body cam footage. We have what the attorney's saying, the attorney for Tyrone. I want to hear the radio call, and I want to hear exactly what the reporting party and the victim that was calling, what they're telling these cops, because that's huge in the way an officer, their initial response is going to be when they see the person who's pointed out as a suspect, the information they have in their head.
Thanks for your insights, Greg. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and check out these other great videos.